KC's Audio Vault.
Care Failure from Mannequin.
September 10th, 2009. On the phone with us right now is the singer for Mannequin, Care Failure. Welcome to the Rock Report.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're opening up the Marilyn Manson show on Sunday night here in Winnipeg at the MTS Center. Has there been any protesters at any of the shows that you've seen so far?
I was talking to some kids last night on the first night of the tour, and well, I guess last time I came around there were. Maybe there was. Maybe I was just inside and sound checking. I'll have to keep an eye out this time and maybe try to persuade them or not.
Yeah, I think the last time Manson went through the prairies, he met with a few protesters.
Well, you know what's hilarious is that whole, especially after Columbine, and I went through this as a 12-year-old. I got banned from music by the police and by my parents when I was 12 because I had a friend that attempted suicide, and she had scribbled band symbols like we all do in our notebooks. And, this was after Columbine when, parents and police were blaming kids' bad behavior on music instead of bad parenting and neglect, let's be honest, right? So I think the whole thing is asinine. I don't know if it's made me more where I am today and fight for what I believe in more or not, but it really didn't work for me.
The police, then your parents kind of banned you from music. What happened next? Because you ended up living on the streets for a while as a teenager.
Yeah, exactly. That was a ticking time bomb. Me and my family get along amazingly, but now. Kind
of a time bomb that ended up you leaving and sleeping under a bridge for a while.
Yeah, I just lately have, gotten back in touch with my family, and they knew I had to go and do what I had to do, and I knew I had to go do what I had to do, and I knew that things would be okay. I just had to go and do my thing for a little while and stop leading, a double life.
What was that first meeting like with a major label exec? Because you were kind of plucked out of the streets.
Yeah, they follow you. Like, people always ask, how do I get noticed? And I don't know if it's just Canada, because Canada's smaller as opposed to bigger machines in larger countries. Or for some reason, it's a small network. And I remember when I was 15, even before I left home, Barb and Mike from EMI were at a practice of mine, and I didn't even grasp what was going on around me. I was a big cutter then, and my arms were just bleeding, and I scared them away for a year. But in a year, they came back and scooped me up. So that was the first time.
So was there a moment where you walked into EMI or Warner or whomever into the big building and you had your first meeting? What was that one like?
God, I can't remember. Maybe because I was a little fucked up back then. But, that was the first real meeting. But I was lucky. I have horseshoes up my ass, and bands like Led Zeppelin and Beatles, you have 6 albums to get it right back in the good old days. And these days you have one full length to get it right. And, that full length might even get shelved. So, you have one chance. And EMI especially, and the manager Paul and Steve, there's a team around me that really understands the importance of development. The early stages are called development stages for a new band, and they got that. Without that, I'd be lost still.
You're definitely an anomaly in the major label world. Not many artists can name drop the Melvins or Kayas, which I've read some of the interviews. But what were the first bands that made you escape to the bedroom with your headphones?
Well, of course, I was 8 when Kurt Cobain died, but I was, a huge Nirvana fan, and through Nirvana, reading up on who their influences were, I got drawn instantly to, Sonic Youth and the Melvins and Dinosaur Jr., and I have them all tattooed on me, and my favorite album covers and art. So that and, the Pixies, and that's the kind of stuff that really got me going at an early age, and it still does now.
Ian from Billy Talent, he produced a couple tracks from your Slaughter Daughter EP, including Do It or Die. How did he get involved?
Like I said before, the industry's so small, and it can all fit on one rooftop, and they actually do once a year at the party. Ian, we were always closest to. He's the guy that goes out a bit more, so ran into him a bunch, and that was his first, producing job outside of his own band, and we had a great time. There's a big machine, but yeah, it is cool when the peers saying, I like what you do, and then second of all, that I want to be a part of it.
It's just crazy because looking at your resume, I guess the Toronto arts community is as tight as it seems. You've worked with Billy Talent, Mastercraft, and filmmaker Bruce McDonald.
Yeah, we worked with Bruce a lot. He just called me yesterday. We just got nominated for that documentary he made on us for 2 Geminis. Emailed him a thank you note, and he's so nice. He emailed back, "No, thank you." And I'm like, "I didn't do anything. You guys filmed it." As tight as you think scene, quote unquote, are, I'm really disappointed, and especially like the Indian art scenes in Toronto. They're mostly just backstabbing and jealous and more interested in, well, like, I remember once I started writing courses, I started losing friends, and that doesn't really make sense. And that's kind of why I started up my own label, How to Kill Music, and not to, like, own a label, because anyone and their dog can. It was just to kind of be able to distribute my friends' CDs and have this friend scene community where people are actually in it for the same reasons and not pretending and posing it's a scene.
With all the bands and people that you've met over the past few years, who are the people you're most excited to see, or have we mentioned them already?
Well, like Alex Lifeson from Rush has become kind of like a musical sugar daddy for me. Like, he gave me one of his guitars, you know, when I'm all poor and didn't have one, and I like the pedals, and most importantly, like, he's given me a lot of advice and messages of perseverance. And so he means a lot. And Matt Hyde, the guy that just produced our first full-length, you know, plus lead, and he's, you know, going to be a long-time friend. And then I guess Jack Irons, who drummed for the record, and we went on tour with him a bit when we were in between drummers just a couple months ago, and he was from Pearl Jam and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he's been through it, so hearing and getting messages and advice from those people mean more than anything to me.
Did you end up meeting Axl Rose when Die Mannequin opened for GNR in 06?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he was around. He'd show up right before the show, and I think Tony got up and close and personal with him and got strangled by security for that. But yeah, that happened.
Well, there's 2 EPs so far, and now, like we were saying, the first Die Mannequin LP, Fino and Bleed, was recent released. What can you tell us about?
Bleed.
How do you say it?
Fino.
What can you tell us about the latest single, Bad Medicine?
Bad Medicine is a song you can fuck to, but also dance to, and it's kind of like a mix of Beck's Loser meets the Butthole Surfers' Pepper. A partying song, a good song for the end of the summer, you know?
That video must have been pretty fun to shoot.
Yeah, we went up to the Queens of the Stone Age and Eagles of Death Metal studio, and, you know, those 2 bands are some of my favorite living bands, so that was exciting for them. And they don't just let anybody up there on their quarters and in their studio, and David Ketching from the Eagles let me drive all his cars, and, well, Tony drive all his cars, and turn one of them into a police car, and just them letting us up on their territory and letting them into their little world. It was, you know, really, really nice. And, you know, I'm a big fan, so it gets me wet just being around all their gear and tapes, so that was really cool for me.
I gather you're probably not a Bon Jovi fan.
Well, I don't know. There's always a time for Bon Jovi, Man with Power.
I was just thinking the song titles.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I get what you mean now. Anthony, actually, he's a little older than me, and when I wrote Bad Medicine, it was one of those times where I was just singing the chorus, Bad Medicine, and the words, usually I write lyrics later, and I was like, fuck, does that make any sense? So I looked it up on the internet, and all I found was this old blues song with this woman singing, like, bam, bam, something about bad medicine. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not just making up words. It actually makes sense. And then Anthony was quick to tell me, actually, there's a fucking Bon Jovi song called Bad Medicine. And then I screamed, no, but he said it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I thought I was making shit up, and there you go.
We're talking to Care Failure, singer in Die Mannequin, opening up for the Marilyn Manson show on Sunday. Thanks for coming on the Rock Report.
Thank you for having me.
All the interviews you want on iTunes and at Power97.com. Casey's Audio Vault.
Casey Norman is Power 97's music director and can be heard every weekday from 2 till 6 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Power 97 is Winnipeg's best rock.